All right, good morning. Again, I'm Robert Smith, Town Manager, Town of Windermere. Today I'm going to be talking about the Bessie Street Water Basin project, another grant-funded project, and has caused a lot of questions, a little bit of controversy. And again, I'm here to try to answer a lot of the questions, and the best way to do that is through video. We learned a lot when we did the Butler and 7th video, so I think it's very helpful when we actually show it, so you have time to review it. Tomorrow night we actually have on the 21st, we have a Zoom meeting at 6 p.m. To join in for the neighbors to figure out what their street may look like. Again, we're at concept level, we're not at design level. So what you see today is going to be the maximums. By being maximums, that doesn't mean that it's going to be a total width of the 14 feet for swales. We can reduce it in some areas, especially at the very beginning. And hopefully there's some other options that we can maybe put into place to reduce that footprint. Right now we're on Main Street and we're on 9th right now. Okay, so this is actually where the project's going to start, and people might ask, why are you starting at Main Street? That's where the start of the basin is. You know, stormwater does flow all the way downhill, and if Travis looks down there, you can see how the slope does and the topography goes downhill. Sorry if you hear some traffic in the background, but it's Windermere and this means. So anyway, if you look over here, the actual right-of-way starts right here. So if you come out here and take a look at the stop sign, you'll probably go about maybe 14 feet, 13 feet. And you'll take a look when Travis comes over here. But this is where the actual swell system is going to start, would be right here. Actually, the right-of-way, I'm sorry. The swale system that we were talking about, similar to Butler and 7th, would start right here. So you can see along here, we're saving this large oak tree right here, and pretty much when we get down a little bit further, actually where the swale would start, it'd be that 4-to-1 slope. So the actual depth of that would be 1.5 to 2 feet. So again, it would just look like a regular lawn. It's not going to look like a huge trench. And then once you hit every single driveway, you would create an apron, and then you have a culvert underneath. And we'll actually show an example. Pretty much the vegetation in here, we're going to work with the property owner, move it back. But again, that 14 feet, especially at the very beginning, and with the fact that you have an apron here dumping water into actual Main Street, we could probably reduce that significantly. When we get over here, this right here is going to be 6 feet. This 6 feet is going to be the water line, and it's going to be the potable water line that is going to extend all the way down 9th Avenue. Now what's that going to do is not only allow for people to get potable water, but it's also going to provide for fire protection services. Every 500 feet, we're going to be putting in a fire hydrant. So again, we're not only going to have potable water, but we're also going to have fire hydrants for fire protection services. So the actual beginning of the right-of-way will start pretty much at or around where it is now. So when people talk again about the widening of the dirt roads, so on and so forth, again, that's not true. Again, we have to maintain the 18 feet to make sure that we're making sure that we're meeting the minimum standards in order to receive that grant funding. So when we start here, that begins the 18 feet. The 18 feet runs to about right here. And when you look at it, when Travis comes behind me, it pretty much lines up with that stop sign that's over there, over on Oakdale and 9th. Then right here you have the 3 foot of shoulder, and again, the shoulder is grass, the road is dirt, the swale or the 6 foot for the water utility is grass, and the swale is grass. All right, let's keep going down a little bit. So a lot of the impacts at the very beginning are mostly going to be on the north side of 9th Avenue. Over here, again, it's a straight shot. You have the 3 foot grass shoulder. You have the 18 feet of dirt roadway. You have the 6 feet for the water utility, which is flat. So the way the road's going to be is you're going to have 3 foot flat. You're going to have a 2% slope for the dirt roadway. Then you're going to have 6 feet of flat, and then you have the actual swale system. Okay, so all of this would be actual swale. underneath this is going to be, we'll have to do a concrete apron with a culvert pipe underneath. And you'll see a good example of what that is over here. So pretty much when you stand up here, what you see here is pretty much what you're going to see when the project is completed. You can see that it's all going to be grass, and you're still going to have a culvert that's going to be underneath the driveway over there. Now that berm on the north side is a little dramatic. We'll probably have to reduce that a little bit, but you can see pretty much what it's going to look like. Again, what it looks like here is grass, and what it looks like at the very end is going to be grass as well. So we're saving these trees, and we're saving the trees on the south as well. Again, the dirt roadway remains pretty much the same exact width that it is right now. So again, when people think of this project and they hear 18 feet, they think it's significant, it's going to create more traffic, so on and so forth. It's going to stay pretty much exactly the same that it is right now. It's going to be brought up to be, again, to make sure that it's going to meet that 2% slope so we can get the stormwater where it's supposed to be. When we get to the end of this project over on Bessie, we'll explain how we may be able to actually slow down some traffic and hopefully, curtail some of the cut-through traffic with maybe a three-way stop if we go ahead and tee up that intersection. When you take a look at the actual right-of-way line, a good indicator of where the right-of-way line starts is pretty much right where the pavers end on this driveway. So the 14-foot of swale would start here, come down. We'd have, again, it's going to be more of a gradual slope, so it's easier to maintain and it's less intrusive, less aesthetically unpleasing. Similar to what we're doing to Butler and 7th. We'll still have a culvert pipe underneath the driveway or apron, but that's where the stormwater is going to flow into. And so the reason for this, again, everybody says, you want to make sure that you slow down the stormwater before it actually gets to the final destination, which is the retention area, so it can perk before it actually gets into the lakes. So if it's a heavy rain, the water has an opportunity to flow into here. It will flow into here, but again, it tends to slow it down a little bit so it can back up and it can percolate in here. But this will be a dry retention pond, or not a dry retention pond, but a dry retention swale. So it's not going to be anything that's muddy. You can tell right now when I'm stepping in it, we've had several rains. It's not muddy, there's no dirt, it's not filled with leaves, but again, that's something that we'll take a look at once we get into the maintenance program of these systems. And we'll make sure that we clean out all these culverts as well to make sure that they're flowing nicely. But it does give an opportunity for the water to go ahead and stack and perk down, so it's not a straight shot going into the other systems, because if you shoot it straight down to the other systems, they're overwhelmed and you get flooding, and that's exactly what we don't want to do. To here, things are going to change just a little bit. Right now, this pipe, it goes across the street, and where that stop sign is on the southeast corner of 9th and Oakdale. Pretty much goes nowhere, and it just flows into 9th Avenue. So this structure is going to be amended to make sure it connects with the actual swell system that we're going to be building on the north side of 9th Avenue. That makes sure that everything is on the same side, it's easier to maintain, and that the water flowing on the same side as well, and nothing's being diverted over to 9th and Oakdale South. So once we get here again, we're still going to maintain the way that this roadway is going to go. It's going to go pretty much along, and then it's going to start curving to the south a little bit, and I'll show you where that curve is going to start. Right here is actually where the right-of-way line starts. And you can see behind me as well, when you see these stakes with the orange tags, that's where the actual right-of-way is. You can see when I go down this way, the large tree, there's large vegetation over there. We're going to try to maintain and save that as much as possible. These 3 trees right here, we'll work with the property owner on actually moving them back. So there won't be any real loss of any vegetation whatsoever. Then you have the 3 foot that we're just going to go ahead and move back, over a little bit, but this is where the swell system is going to start. Just to make sure that you see that large hoop that's over there. So again, with the 4-to-1 and 3-to-1 slope, you have a total of 14 feet. And again, the max is 14 feet through the concept plan. Once we actually get into the nuts and bolts of design, it could be 7 feet, 9 feet, 6 feet, whatever they can do to make sure that they're moving the stormwater down and making sure that it's easy to maintain. So the 14 feet would come to here. And again, these trees right here, we would remove or replace. So right here would be the end of the swale system, all grass. Then here is the 6 feet for the water utility, again, all grass. And then the roadway would come to here, all dirt. And then you have the 3 foot of grass shoulder. And then you can see when you're standing on here, that 3 foot of grass shoulder pretty much saves, a little bit of vegetation that's over there. All we're gonna have to do is move the mailbox back. So Travis, if you can just turn around real quick. Again, when people say when we do these projects, we're making highways, thoroughways, or whatever you want to call it, pretty much what you see is really what you're going to see at the very end of the project, except for the fact that you're going to see a lot of grass being lined up on the edges, and then some minor changes as far as the topography of the grass area. But it's going to be lower, it's going to be able to be maintained, and then actually the pitch of the road will shoot the stormwater over to the south to the north and be easily to be maintained. And then when you switch over to this way, again, you can see how the topography pretty much goes straight down. There's a hump over there, which we're going to take a look at as well. But grass, dirt, and then 6 foot, again, which is the minimum amount. 3 foot is the minimum amount of shoulder that you can do for the Green Book standards. 18 feet is the minimum width for Green Book standards as well. The 6 feet is the minimum that we can use for Orange County utilities to get water. And then the 14 feet is the one that we have that ability to reduce or expand depending upon environmental aspects like trees or environmentally sensitive areas, or if we might just be able to just reduce it based on the design. So again, when you get to the driveways, which we typically call aprons, they'll be concreted in. And so we can get, and the reason why people say, well, why are you going to concrete them? The fact of the matter is that we need to put something in so we can make sure that the stormwater is flowing where it should be going. And then making sure that it's going underneath and it's easier to maintain. So what you see right here is gravel, so we would be creating more impervious surface, but again, it's all for the betterment of making sure that we maintain our dirt roadways. Because again, as I said in the Butler and 7th, videos, the whole purpose of this is to make sure that we are keeping the dirt roadways. We talked about the possibility of paving roadways where we'd only be utilizing 20 to 24 feet of right-of-way. Well, with a dirt roadway, the minimum amount that we're going to be able to utilize is between 41 and 44 feet, and that 44 feet is a max with that 14-foot swale. So we've done our best at reducing that, that impact, the perceived impact to the property owners that live adjacent to those roadways. So as we get further down, here is where we're going to start reason for that shift, you can see, is that there's a lot of vegetation, oaks, there's some avocado trees, so on and so forth. So we're going to start moving this way. And the reason for that too is there's a tree that's over there, it's dead, and it will have to be removed. So out of this project, one tree will have to be removed, and it's already dead. There's nothing we can do to save it, but we will try to replant with an oak or something in like kind that is outside of that 3-foot shoulder. The swale system will start to meander from the north side a little bit towards the south side. But right here in the diagram, this right here is not the right of way. This is actually an individual service pole, so that'll have to be moved onto the property owner's property. But other than that, there's really nothing in here that's going to be negatively impacted. And again, with the driveway, you'll see a culvert pipe going underneath. So we'll continue down, and then over here, 6 feet for the water utility, and then the roadway would end here, and then your 3-foot shoulder is right here. And when Travis comes behind me again, you can see it's minimal impact either way when it comes to vegetation, when it comes to trees, and so on and so forth. So there's really nothing that we can either replace, retransplant, or save. Now, as Travis takes a look at this area right here, you can see that this is pretty much a choke point, and it's really, when we first walked down this, we're like, okay, this is going to be one of the biggest issues, because again, we want to maintain the charm, we want to maintain the canopy, and we don't want to, again, impede on what people perceive as their front yards, which is the town right-of-way. So we had to do some, some really good engineering and some long discussions on how do we accomplish this. And the way that we're going to accomplish this is the best way is to come down here, and we can show you from the standpoint from the east looking west. So in the design that we're coming up with, all this is being safe. We might need to trim some of this back over here. Is we want to make sure, and if Travis wants to take a look over here, you can see the vegetation that we want to make sure that we maintain. So when you actually take a look at it, when we're working with the property owner here, is to probably begin the swale system somewhere at or around right here. And what that does again is saves everything that's behind here and a lot of the avocado. As far as these things, they're probably gonna have to be removed. But again, our whole intent is to make sure that we save as much vegetation as possible. So that's why we're shifting the road this way. So you have the 14-foot swale, you'd have the 6-foot, and then when you come up here, this is the tree that's going to have to be removed. We're definitely going to be working with an arborist, but from every indication that we've had so far, this tree is dead. Now with the Town of Windermere, with our tree board, with our Tree City USA, again, we take the removal of trees, not lightly. We make sure that we have everything documented, that if we can't save it, we're going to have to remove it. But what we'll do is try to replant whatever we can to make sure that in future generations, we're still going to maintain that tree canopy. But you can see from the marks over here that the 3-foot would start here. Remember, we're going to meander a little bit. And then the dirt roadway would end here. So the roadway is swerving a little bit. So that does two things. Not only does it try to protect a lot of the vegetation, but hopefully simply by it swerving a little bit, it slows down traffic. Because again, if you start meandering a little bit, people don't have a straight shot, so it eliminates that discussion as far as, okay, you're creating that drag strip for people to go ahead and speed down. That's not the case. Again, it's going to be the 3 foot with the 2% slope, 6 foot, and then 14 feet, which we can hopefully reduce a little bit. And everything's going to be connected by culverts and pipes. So anyway, the only big tree, major tree that's going to be coming down is this one right here. And then we may have to do some trimming on that one right there to make sure that we meander it again. Other than that, then we hit again another open area. So you have the 3 foot swale, or the 3 foot shoulder roadway, and then the swale system over here. Once we get to this intersection, you can see that it's curved right now. And again, with a lot of these projects, a lot of the workshops, and a lot of discussions that we have with people when we just drive around, there's a lot of speeding that happens around this. People tend to, get in their trucks, get in their cars, they like to go ahead and whip around this corner, slide a little bit, drifting, whatever you want to call it. So in order for us to make sure that we not only maintain the look, the charm, the feel, and reduce the amount of speeding, we're going to be teeing up this intersection. So what you have is, everything here, we're going to go ahead and start lining. So you're going to have a three-way intersection that's going to have a stop sign on every corner. So that's going to make sure that when people come by here, they stop and then they have to go. Not only does that reduce the amount of speeding that people receive on this roadway, but also hopefully it causes a deterrent for people to use it as a cut through. Because the more time that they have to spend going down these dirt roadways, stopping at different intersections, that's less of an incentive for them to use it as an actual cut through. So we're going to go ahead and maintain that all the way down to 7. And that's going to be another video. But right here is where we're going to tee it up. And then if Travis, if you want to turn around. Again, the only major tree that's coming down is this one right here, and it's dead. So everything's going to be connected by pipes, and where that pipe is going to outfall into is going to be a retention area in this location here. So here's where the water is going to, make its final destination. Remember, we want to make sure we convey it, but we convey it to a point where it's not just rushing down here, but it's gradually getting down here, because we don't want to overflow this system. We want to make sure that this is deep enough and it's adequate enough to make sure that it can hold enough water from a 25-year storm so it can gather here and then it can perk down. But remember, the swales and this retention area are planned to be dry. They're not planned to be wet. But the whole purpose of that is to make sure that we capture everything that we can before it gets in there. Because right now we want to make sure that we protect the lakes, we want to make sure that the nutrient levels are appropriate, and the more that we dump into the lakes is the more that we, again, take away from the charm and the community of the town of Windermere. So again, this is just a video from 9th all the way down to Bessie. There's 2 other areas that we'll be going over and 2 other videos that we'll be going over in the projects meeting or the Zoom meeting tomorrow night, but hopefully I'll be able to get some more videos for you to take a look at. Again, I'm Robert Smith. Please feel free to contact me. Everybody has my email, my phone number. You can email me prior to the meeting, email us after the meeting. But again, please realize that this is just a concept meeting. Once the concept is approved, then we get into a scope and services for actual design. And just like with Butler and 7th, there's different alternatives that we can take a look at. We can take a look at, if we need to leave a section out. We need to take a look at if there's piping that could be available in some areas. And then also looking at, again, the concept that we've come up with. So again, you're looking at a stormwater system that's going to work, a stormwater system that's going to be easily to be maintained, and then we're becoming more consistent as opposed to being inconsistent with the roadways in the town of Windermere. But again, this is only for these two projects because they're funded by grant funds. So don't worry about any of the other projects or your roadways because again, we can self-fund those and we don't have to follow real certain guidelines if we don't need to. Again, I'm Robert Smith. Thank you very much for watching this video and I look forward to our further discussion.